Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking out time and coming today to celebrate the Telangana Cultural Entrepreneurship Day, which is the first step towards creating, nurturing, and fostering a cultural entrepreneurship ecosystem. So, I'd request everybody sitting in the behind to occupy the front seats. We will start in the next 5 minutes. We'll just wait for a few more minutes for the attendees, and we'll begin in the next 5 minutes. Thank you.
ఓకే మైక్ ఒక్కటి ఇప్పుడు అక్కడి నుంచి తీసుకుంటుందా లేదు ఇక్కడి నుంచి
ఓవరాల్ సౌండ్ తీసుకుంటాం
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the ecosystem stakeholders, inclusive of cultural startups, incubators, academia, students, aspiring entrepreneurs, as well as government officials for coming down to dialogue on promoting and fostering cultural entrepreneurship ecosystem in the state of Telangana. So I'll start off by extending my gratitude to Mankali Srinivasarao garu to witness that in a hub like this, which is thriving for tech startups, for having allowed us to speak and today dialogue about cultural startups is something really new. And to have agreed for that, thank you so much because I mean it's been a long that we've discussed about cultural startups and sitting here in T Hub today talking about such topic is only the first very step to building that ecosystem. So thank you so much, MSR, for that. So without any delay, I'll just try to set the context and call on the next speaker to begin off. So it all started off a few months back when Sanjay Anandram, the co-founder of Network of Indian Cultural Enterprises, had come down and had opened our perspective on, as a state government, how thriving we were and what we were trying to do for different sector-specific startups. And it is also the need of the heart to discuss on cultural startups who have been promoting products or services pertaining to Indian culture. And there are so many out there existing in the market, but do we have an exclusive focus towards pivoting or scaling them for a greater market was the idea. And how do we start over here in Telangana? We've had multiple conversations on beginning of a program, accelerator programs, framework level discussions, and then we all agreed to the fact that it's important for the as a first step to listen from the startup, from the entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and people who've been in this space and have done in different areas to see what is the path that we could chart out. And that's how we've decided that let's organize a cultural entrepreneurship day, a first meetup where it brings all the like-minded people together to dialogue, discuss about what we would like to do in the state of Telangana. And that's why we are here today. And thank you so much, everybody, once again, to take out their time and come down today. And without any delay, I'll go with the flow. Now, I invite Mr. Sanjay Anandram, co-founder, a network of Indian cultural enterprises, to come onto the dais and set the context and our meeting over here for what we plan to do for Telangana state.
Hi. Thanks, Pranay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this event. It's a great gratitude and thankfulness and joy that I'm standing here today. This is the country's first cultural entrepreneurship day, and Telangana is the state that has taken that step. The crowd is small, but with massive impact. And I think we should make a note of this date, Jan 11th, 2023. I believe it is going to be a red letter day as this movement is going to spread across the country and more people, more and more states, more and more organizations, and especially cultural entrepreneurs pick up the mantle and make this a big success. I want to thank the government of Telangana for their proactive initiative in this whole regard, especially Sri Jayashanjan Garu. Thank you so much because you were so quickly and readily accepted and saw the merit in this effort. To Dr. Shanta, thank you very much. MSR and to everybody else. And of course, to my friend Pranay for being the coordinator and also the victim of many of our last minute requests. Thank you. So the point being here that I'll just take another 5 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time because you've got the rest of the program here. The word culture and entrepreneurship in our minds don't go together. The moment we say culture, we think spirituality, music, dance, all of that. Entrepreneurship is the big bad world of making money. Now, unless we put these together, the jugalbandi between the side that works with artisans, craftspeople, creative industries, and all of that, with the market, the intelligent interface between the two, that is the creators and the market, is where the cultural entrepreneur sits. This is exactly like what happened in the IT industry 25, 30 years ago. So to me, having come from the IT industry, And having seen the evolution of that over the last 30 years, I can very clearly see that the parallels are absolutely staggering. And it is high time that as a country, and particularly as the state of Telangana, we take the first step. Culture has been something that we have wanted to always protect and preserve. We have never thought about it to promote and prosper. The coming together of protect, preserve, promote, prosper is what makes this entire value chain so successful. It creates livelihoods, it creates wealth, it'll create brand Telangana, it'll create brand India. And that is what all of us must strive towards to make it happen. And it's very, very important that we think about it from the standpoint of creating branded products, services, and experiences. You know, just having this chat with someone a short while ago, we are one of the world's largest producers of cotton. Cotton becomes yarn, yarn becomes jeans. We sell $370 million worth of jeans outside India. But we don't have a single proper Indian jeans brand. But the cotton and the denim goes from India. Levi's Strauss, which is a jeans brand, makes $5.8 billion a year, just one single company with a 59% operating margin. Can you imagine what that means to all the people in the ecosystem around Levi's? And that is what we need to think about. Yoga is a $100 billion global industry. We don't have a single Indian yoga brand. We'll go to Starbucks in New York and pay $7 for turmeric latte, but our haldi doodh has no value. Diwali will come, we will give chocolates, our mithai is gone. Tourism, every state has so much going for it by way of tourism. The Louvre, for example, attracts more tourists than half of India, just one place, right? All of India gets about 18 million tourists from overseas, and France alone gets about 40 million. So the point being that every single thing that we think about, our single greatest asset is our culture, whether it's food, whether it's beverages, whether it is our health, wellness, and beauty related products, whether it is our artisans' work, which can be used in home decor, it's fashion, it's tourism. We have to start thinking of them from the standpoint of deriving economic value. Without that, we cannot be dependent just on patronage and philanthropic capital to keep the lives of all these excellent artisans and craftspeople going. They have to make money, and money will come only from the consumer, right? So we have to think about it from that standpoint. And it is our humble effort today to set the ball rolling, to have all of you present here, to make sure that this idea of cultural entrepreneurship takes root in our consciousness. And we have to realize that in our purusharthas, it is not just moksha that we want. We also have to get artha. And without the artha, there is no moksha, right? That's a continuum. And we have to start thinking about it from that standpoint. How does one start looking at culture as an economic asset? And this effort today, and I thank you once again very, very deeply for being present here to ensure that this initiative gets all the momentum and fillip that it requires. So I request all of you for your help, your support, and shoulders to the wheel as we make this takeoff starting Jan 11th, 2023 from here in Telangana. So thank you all very, very much, and thank you.
Sanjay, I'd like you to stay on the stage once for a moment. I'd call upon Dr. Shanta Tautam to give away the memento to Sanjay Anandran. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for those words. I still remember when we had this conversation initially. Until unless we initiate a dialogue, it doesn't fall into the action, right? I think it's only a matter of agility now that we kick off the programs, and now we realize that there's a team, there's an organization that's trying to build this plan for cultural startups. Now, as the hope increases, we try to create more programs and go ahead with this. Without any delay, I take this opportunity to invite Principal Secretary Sri Jayesh Ranjan sir for the ITENC Department, Government of Telangana, to give away the address.
Thank you. Greetings to all the participants, all the delegates. Special recognition to Sanjay Anandram Garu, my colleague, Mamidi Harikrishna Garu, M. Srinivasrao Garu, Shanta Gautam Garu, and all the invitees for today's very landmark day, as has been mentioned. So by now you would have gone through the website of NICE. You would have understood their mandate. It's not a very new organization. It started 3 years ago, isn't it? In 2019 in Bangalore. And of course, some part of the 3 years were lost or were, let us say, were transacted in a very different way. But still, despite all the challenges, their achievements in the last 3 years is very significant. They have already identified a significant number of cultural enterprises, startups, all kinds of support programs have been launched. They also are exchanging ideas, knowledge. Lots of master classes are happening, like any other incubation program, acceleration program. That kind of professionalism is seen in their activities. And fortunately, about I would say 8 months ago or so, the previous CEO of T Hub, Mr. Ravi Narayan, he sent a mail to me because Ravi is also on your advisory board, on the board itself. Ravi is on their board. So Ravi Narayan told that this is something which is going on in Bangalore and it is getting much appreciation. It is also being seen as a very helpful platform to lots of people who are keen for doing something to promote Indian heritage, culture, values, traditions. But they feel that this is a path which is very less traversed. They feel kind of that enough support ecosystem is not there. They feel alone at times. They feel diffident at times. So he mentioned that the initiative in Bangalore has really done well. And would you like to bring it to Hyderabad? So this is a subject which is very close to my heart. In fact, while I officially have a responsibility in the government, but lots of my personal time, my private time is spent on promoting and encouraging arts, culture, creativity, literature, tourism. I used to work as the Secretary for Tourism in the combined Andhra Pradesh. I worked for almost 4 years. And while I'm doing interesting work now also, but amongst all the assignments that I've held in my career, I rate that as creatively one of the most satisfying. So this was something which struck a chord in me, and I immediately requested Ravi to make the introduction. So we got introduced to Sanjay Garu, and he also, when he presented what they are doing in Bangalore and elsewhere, it looked very promising, looked very appealing. And we decided thereafter that we will also immediately bring it to Hyderabad. So we have made efforts in the last 3-4 years to curate a list of whatever best we could find, enterprises, startups, companies who are in different aspects of culture. So as was mentioned, culture is not only fine arts or performing arts or theater or cuisine or handlooms or handicrafts or tourism. I mean, these are, of course, the better known ones, but there are other ways also in which we see cultural expressions happening all around. And he very rightly said that for a variety of reasons, particularly due to the very overpowering influence of Western culture, predominantly American culture, American movies, American inspirations, there is a tendency to look down upon the best of our own world. And at critical times, we realize the value of such things. He was, Sanjay Garu was giving the example of this haldi latte. So, sorry, turmeric latte. We know that haldi is something which it's kind of home remedy, grandmother's remedy. All of us take it, but we look down upon it. We think that it is not very posh or fashionable to pretend that I'm drinking haldi, stuff like that. So how do you also get that kind of a mindset change that whatever is traditional, whatever is coming down for generations is not old fashioned, is not uncool, it is not 19th century. So lots of such issues are there, which hopefully this network will guide us. I don't have anything very significant to say here today. but to appreciate this initiative, welcome you to this network. But as I said, at a personal level, I'll be very supportive. See, all kinds of innovation strands are happening in Hyderabad today. All of us are aware how proud we are of institutions like T-Hub and TSIC and others, and amazing things are happening in tech innovations, in edutech, in health tech, agri, space. I mean, you name it, and we are all there. And obviously, as a government, we support everyone, but I'll be much more partial to cultural enterprises than anyone else. And whatever it takes to make all of you successful, whatever objectives you have set for yourselves to help you achieve those objectives, we will be very, very committed to it. So I look forward to finding out more about what you do, what area are you dabbling in, where have you reached, how do you want us to promote you further, how do you want this network to help you, and the website is very informative. Even if you do not have complete idea of what NICE does, we will urge you to go through the website where every offering of theirs has been explained. And I do hope that everything which is going on in Bangalore for the last 3 years will be replicated, and possibly much more can also be done. I'm also happy that my colleague, my friend from the culture department, director of culture, Hari Krishna Garu, is here. He is himself a poet, a translator, and has much creative work, a body of huge body of creative work to his credit. And for him to take time and be here also gives a very strong message that uh, cultural entrepreneurship is something which the government is completely serious about. So let us stay in touch, exchange ideas. We have requested Sanjay to, just as they have a secretariat in Bangalore, an office in Bangalore, to set up an office, because lots of work will require to be done in kind of developing proposals, creating events, creating meetups. And now that virtual is becoming a thing of the past, lots of physical activities will have to be curated and conducted, which requires manpower, feet on the ground. So while as of now, TSIC is owning this initiative, they are supporting this initiative. But at some point in time, we should develop self-sufficiency, create our own outfit here, outlet here, and whatever it takes to help people. I know of many people who are in this room. I know of their work. I know that they are also doing something which is very significant. And given the right kind of opportunities, this can really become world class. What they do here for Hyderabad or Telangana or for the country today can be exported very easily. The soft power of India, as everyone knows, has tremendous mass appeal elsewhere. So we should bring the best of Hyderabad and Telangana to the rest of the world as well. So good wishes for this initiative, and please spend this time fruitfully and productively. Meet as many people as you want. Please also, before the end of the session, announce what are going to be the next steps. How will we stay connected? I hope we are taking down everyone's particulars, mail ID, etc. Create some groups and things like that. So good wishes for this initiative, and let us take individual responsibility for making it really flourish and become the best innovation strand, entrepreneurial strand amongst all here in Hyderabad. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Just to reiterate everything that every time we speak about this ecosystem, Jay sir ensures that anything that we do or anything that we're building from scratch, it should always be an ecosystem as a whole approach, not just the specific people of the ecosystem, but anybody who's aspiring, who can add more value addition to the ecosystem, it should be taken. So today, that's the approach that we've taken. And you will soon witness it in the panel discussion also with a diverse set of panelists. Now I request Sanjay Anandaram to give away the token of appreciation to Jay sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your words. Again, with no delay, who better than a person who has been working on ground with the people in preserving and thriving the culture of Telangana? We have Sri Mabidi Harikrishna Garu, Director of Department of Language and Culture, Government of Telangana. Sir, I request you to come down and address the audience on how do we intervene innovation and entrepreneurship into preserving the culture of Telangana.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And especially, I would like to say my heartfelt thanks for inviting me here to share some of the views that is related to cultural entrepreneurship. Jayesh Ranjan sir, thank you so much, sir. And of course, it is Sanjay Anandaram sir and Srinivas Mahankal sir and Shanta Tautam, Dr. Shanta Tautam, and all the young entrepreneurs and with lots of energy to make the things to happen. So it's very warm welcome to you all. So here, culture and entrepreneurship, as far as Telangana is concerned, because this is the new ideology, new innovation, and new thought process that is being, emanated now itself. The thing is that it is culture and entrepreneurship is as old as the mountains of Aravalis and as contemporary as the cloud computing or artificial intelligence. So it is having the wonderful bigger canvas than that of anything else. The science and technology may, or IT sector or irrigation or whichever, whatever the new innovations that are being happening across the globe may confine themselves only to a similar part or a singular thing. But here culture, it represents everything. So since the womb to tomb. So the entire human evolution that has been taken place from the womb to tomb, the rituals, the practices, the traditions that are being taking place while you are making certain practices when you born to, to an extent of the saying a bid farewell or bid an adieu to the greatest souls who traveled on this earth for some time. So here, that is the magnanimity and the zygotic canvas that is there with the culture. So here, the thing is that as Sanjay sir has already nicely observed, the fact is that it is an unexplored zone, actually. It is an unexplored zone, which is having a wider spectrum to express and explain and expand. Extensive expansion is there, actually. So here we can find ourselves, we can find the identity, we can find the existence of a human mankind or human generation or human race through the culture. So the way you behave, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you express your feelings with the language. Language is also one of the important component in the entire culture. And the culture, whatever the things that we have already discussed here, the food, the attire, the costumes, the way you walk, everything comes under the very purview of culture, up to an extent of Kaleshwaram. Kaleshwaram is one of the prominent irrigation facility that has been created by our Honorable CM in Telangana. And even Kaleshwaram is also an integral part of culture. So if we could able to express and make it as a entrepreneur item for entrepreneurship, we can brand it, we can make them to reach the entire world, enter the globe. So here entrepreneurship, making the culture as an entrepreneur one, so is also one of the important aspect here. As far as Telangana is concerned, it is untapped glory is there. As far as history or heritage, culture, and folk arts or fine arts or whichever, whatever. And apart from that, even cuisine, Hyderabadi biryani is very, very popular across the globe. So even with the branding of that particular food also, making the certain food grains, which are very much popular, very much visible here in Telangana and Telangana climate only, we can make them to brand them. We can make them to reach the world across the globe. So here, take the example of painting. So we thought of real estate. And now we are thinking about IT estate also, information technology, the technology estate, the science and technology. These are all the things that are very saleable commodities nowadays. And even cloud computing or artificial intelligence or blockchain system, whichever, whatever the latest advanced technologies that is being happening here. But here I would like to tell you, even a painting of 4x4 feet is also the greatest estate or market than that of anything else. If you take the example of M.F. Hussein's or Tyab Mehta's or Raja Ravi Verma's, whichever, whatever, take the example, even Mona Lisa painting or whichever, it may be having I mean 10 into 8 or something like that, but it costs more than crores, number of crores, dollars, thousands of dollars, crores of rupees have been invested on that particular one. Take the example of Sotheby's or Christie's or something like that. So here, art and culture is one of the important aspect that has to be explored, and that has to be given to the needy people who are having that crave, thirst, and respect for the art and culture and values. And even yoga, as Sanjay sir just now told, yoga is one of the greatest marketing brand that is being pervaded across the globe, when United Nations has recognized it as one of the important aspect and created a day, June 21, as the International Yoga Day. So here, when these are all the things that has to come across. And as far as India and Telangana is concerned, these are the lands where a wonderful culture has been flourished, nourished, and cherished by the people with great respect and all. And one more thing I would like to tell you, we do have the greatest human power, manpower after China. 1.3 billion consumers are there. If you could able to sell the product. So if it is the case with the European Economic Community or any other country, even Latin America, even America, North America, Latin America, and whatever the country, it is very much restricted to some crores of people. But here we have billions of the people who can consume, who can be the target group for our entire cultural market rather. So here, one more thing I would like to tell you, language. As far as Telugu language is concerned, where this Telugu language and Telangana is been one of the prominent language is. So here, around 15 crores of people are speaking Telugu language. But most of the times, what we thought of ourselves is that English learning is one of the important aspect as a business entrepreneurship. But here, Telugu learning is also one of the business entrepreneurship. We could able to explore the new avenues. So because most of the present generation people are not having that skill to write Telugu script. But thanks to technology with the Unicode systems and the transliteration mechanism that is being happening now. So you can write by typing in English, you can get the Telugu script. So these are all the new advances, new technologies. In spite of that, if they take the example of America, America is one Silicon Andhra university is there. That university is exclusively making the NRIs to learn Telugu language, Telugu literature, Telugu dance, music, drama, and whatnot. So here that has expanded because of the entrepreneurship, because of the market, because of the demand. It is simple market principle that where there is a demand, there will be the supply. So it is demand supply principle, and even every market will run through this particular mechanism of demand supply. So here, as far as culture is concerned, demand is there, but not the supply as per the demand. So because there is a huge gap between demand and the supply. So here what we have to do is that we have to make a package of culture to cater the needs of the demands of the masses. So that is the reason that entrepreneurship is needed. That is the reason that innovative ideas are needed. That is the reason these new avenues to make a wonderful, attractive mechanisms are needed. So here, as a part and parcel of our lifestyle, culture has become a part and parcel of our lifestyle. It has become a part and parcel of our lifestyle every day. So we cannot see away from our own lifestyle. So even if it is the case with the Puranas, Upanishads, or Vedas, or Vedangas, or whatever, the greatest gurus across the globe you can take, the greatest gurus are hailed from using their own knowledge from the Indian religious values, Indian meditational practices, Indian spiritual thoughts. So even Shiv Khera or Robin Sharma, whoever you can take the example as the greatest people, even the latest Amish Tripathi, he also made culture as the base, mythology, fiction, and history. He made a wonderful confluence in writing, and he has sold his Immortals of Meluha millions of copies. So this is the power of the culture, and where we can expand our wings, and where we can visualize the imagination to reach the sky. So it was, but unfortunately, it was not tapped so far. So as our Jayesh Ranjan sir already emphasized the fact, it is known as preservation, promotion, and it's a duty. But at the same time, it is a brand that has to be created. So Telangana is the youngest state that has been emerged from the Indian Union as the youngest state, as the 29th state, only because of this cultural ethos and cultural values, only because of to find out their own identity for the culture. So here, culture is one of the important aspects that can move the masses, that can educate the masses, that can enlighten the masses, that can emancipate the masses. But unfortunately, it was not tapped so far, not explored so far to that extent. So this is one step towards that goal, to build a wonderful brand of India, brand of Telangana. So from the Department of Language and Culture for the last 8 years, since the formation of Telangana state, with the kind blessings and the inspiration, taking the inspiration from our Honorable Chief Minister, Kalakuna Chandrasekhar Rao sir. So we have created different sorts of innovative ideas. We have introduced different sorts of innovative thoughts in making the brand Telangana cultural means. So either it may be Gauhati, the different places we have been reaching through the means of the art forms, through the means of Perini. Perini is also one of the ancient art form of Telangana at the times of Kakatiyas. Now it has been rejuvenated, revived, and we have organized certain training camps to introduce to the younger generation, to the younger lot. So by that they could able to learn and they will perform. So by that the brand will expand. So one more thing I would like to tell you, sir, if any art form, either it may be language, literature, culture, art, performing art, or whichever, whatever, it will reach to the younger audience or younger artist or younger performer, it will live, the culture will live up to an extent of more than 50 or 70 years. So because that young person will live up to an extent of 70 years, if he is having that interaction or encounter with the cultural aspects, then definitely he will enlive that particular cultural ethos and cultural values along with him through his entire lifespan. So that is one of the important mechanism that we can extend the culture through the means of the minds of the millions of the masses. So here, there is a lot of scope. There is a lot of opportunities. There is a lot of chance to expand our wings. So it's a right time and a right decision that has been initiated by TSIC and under the wonderful guidance of our Honorable Secretary Sir. And I do have a great respect, and all the time I used to get inspiration from his activities, the dynamism and the decision-making styles and leadership qualities for our Jayesh Ranjan Sir. And this is a wonderful opportunity. And this may be a small step, as Neil Armstrong told on 1969 July 20, when he first landed on the moon. This may be a small step for me, but a giant leap for the entire mankind. So this may be a small step for today, but in the days to come, it will become a giant leap in making cultural entrepreneurship as one of the greatest brands and greatest livelihood provider to all the young minds with different thoughts and creativity in the days to come. I do believe in it, because the persons behind this entire innovation are having that vision, first thing. And the second thing is that the practicality. And the third one is that feasibility. And the fourth one is possibility. And at the same time, that reach capacity. So I do have the strong belief that in the days to come, we are going to make a mark, as Telangana is not only an innovation hub for IT sector and some other aspects like welfare schemes like Raitu Bandhu, Kalyana Lakshmi, and many other new novel concepts for the development of humankind or mankind or women folk, something like that. But also in cultural front, Telangana is going to helm the affairs and will become a torchbearer with the kind support of uh, all of you and your own ideas. And it's a welcoming note. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to take part with you with your ideas. And thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Stay here.
And one more, sir. The Department of Language and Culture is meant for uh, promotion, propagation, and proliferation, and publication and documentation, and many other aspects of culture, art, literature, language, and many other things. So here, most of the people I know personally, because we do have a wonderful camaraderie to organize many other cultural events here in Hyderabad and Secunderabad and the different parts of India. So Department of Language and Culture is welcome you all with new ideas. Whoever having the new ideas here, we are here to support them. And I know pretty well about Vishali and Akhilesh Vashikar and some other persons who joined here. And thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for emphasizing on the culture that is being preserved by Telangana and various initiatives that have been taken up to promote it statewide and nationwide. Now, I call upon Dr. Shanta Tautam to give away the token of appreciation to Mamidi Harikrishna Garu. Also request MSR Garu to come onto the stage. Now we have Dr. Shanta Tautam, Chief Innovation Officer to the state of Telangana, to give the address. Also, one of the inclinations had to mention it over here is that Dr. Shanta had previously worked as officer on special duty for handlooms and textiles, somebody who's closely seen and understood how cultural entrepreneurship and startups have been thriving in the space of handlooms and textiles. Dr. Shanta, thank you.
Thank you, Pranay. Thank you, Hare Krishna Garu. It was very heartening to hear from you, as a subject matter expert about what is happening in the cultural sector. So going back to probably 2011, I guess, I was working on my dissertation, PhD dissertation. And simultaneously, I was working in an entrepreneurship institute in New Mexico State. It's a land grant university. Up in the north up of New Mexico, we have Albuquerque, and there is this lady, Alice Ho. She reached out to me and said, you know what, I started an accelerator program explicitly for creative startups. And it just like breezed over my head. I said, like, what? When everyone is talking about emerging technologies, AI, ML, how to move technologies into the market. And this lady is starting up an accelerator program and a virtual one explicitly to help startups which are kind of like emerging in the creative space to move into the market. And it did not, I could not connect the dots. And even she mentioned that it was the economy of cultural start entrepreneurship is like contributing to $3 billion of GDP. And still I did not get it. I said like, okay. And then again, last, I know when I was OSD, so after I came to T-Hub and started again working with all these emerging startups, and then worked as OSD for textiles and handicrafts. There I learned a lot about what kind of craftsmen we have, what kind of arts and crafts that we have, the number of GI products that we have in Telangana, and what are we trying to do with them? How are we capturing? Are we generating any GDP out of them? And also when I went into the field and learned about the handmade lace made in Station Ganpur, we have almost like 200 to 300 women who are very adept at making handmade lace. Narsapur is exporting to other countries, but we are not exporting. And also leaf painting. When I met this gentleman in Station Ganpur, he's one individual entrepreneur. His family is also helping him, but he is kind of taking the orders from international countries, especially during Christmas and Thanksgiving, and creating these leaf paints and kind of shipping them to all these countries. But are we capturing this talent? What are we trying to do? So all these things, I was like connecting dots, like what is happening here and there. In the month of July last year, in fact, Minister Garu shared a tweet by Eric Scholhem. He talked about the Singapore-based Textiles and Fashion Federation, which is again getting technology, innovation, craftsmanship, and the sustainability, all these aspects into textiles and fashion. I was thinking again, there's a lot of scope when it comes to textiles and handicrafts. Are we capturing? Our crafts and arts are languishing. At the same time, when it comes to, the innovation part, very recently I heard about our UNESCO heritage site, Ramappa, and how we are taking the motifs from Ramappa temple, the architecture, and then getting new, saris, handmade saris made. So a lot of innovation is also happening, but how would we capture this innovation and move into the market? Are we trying to move, doing any market side interventions? So all these things I was connecting, and then when I heard about NICE, I said like this is the time, and that is the reason we are celebrating this Telangana, like first time in India, state Telangana is celebrating Cultural Entrepreneurship Day to promote culture, heritage, and creative mindsets in the form of products, services, and experiences. And glad we are doing this. We are front facing this initiative. And as JS sir said, we will definitely look into the best stakeholders to kind of bring together. Predominantly, I'm thinking Sanjay sir, Hari Krishna sir. Probably we have to kind of bucket them into three areas. We have to look into students, influencers, and also like creative thinkers. We have to capture them who are kind of like wanted to kind of explore more in the creative space, and also the government bodies, private entities which are looking into the culture and heritage space, and definitely startups, SMEs, and also any entity which is the cultural industry people who are kind of tinkering and kind of coming up with innovative products and moving them into the market. A lot can be done. T-Hub, as most of like, we are looking into the emerging technology sectors. Now we are kind of exploring, kind of expanding into space techs and other, sectors too. But this sector, what we have chosen is very, very interesting. And definitely we could create a lot of entrepreneurs out of this sector and contribute to the creative economy for sure. And whatever it takes from our end, TSICs and Government of Telangana's end, we'll be happy to contribute and bring together all the stakeholders, work together, and ensure like we create that platform from creative startups to scale. Yeah. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and we'll ensure we meet very often, keeping together all the stakeholders. We'll create networking opportunities, and we will be happy to take any inputs from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shanta, for giving away the insights on how it has been thriving so far. So we'll move on to the panel discussion that we have in the flow now. I'll quickly introduce the speakers for you today and the moderator. So today's panel discussion, the topic would be on building cultural entrepreneurship ecosystem in Telangana, need of the hour, with representatives from Mr. Shiva Devi Reddy, founder of GoCoop, Mr. G.V. Krishna Gopal, Group CEO of Access Livelihoods Group, Mr. M. Srinivas Rao, CEO of T-Hub, Ms. Vishala Reddy, founder of Millet Bank, founder of Jamati Design Center and Culture and Creative Industries, Mr. Sridhar Pabisetti, founding director, Kautilya School of Public Policy, Mr. Arjun, EC member, Craft Council of Telangana, and the panel discussion will be moderated by Kanchana KV, Chief Operating Officer of NICE. Request all the speakers to come onto the dais.
Good afternoon. Wow, that was a very powerful, punching conversations that have happened till now. And we can't emphasize enough the criticality of why we are all here today in this room. So you will see the same messages being repeated over and over so that each one of us here internalize it and actually work together in a collaborative approach going forward. So once again, to emphasize, this is not just an event, but we are here today to convene, foster dialogues, and most importantly, take forward all these discussions to come up with actionable items and truly make Telangana the first state to grow cultural entrepreneurship. Um, we have about 30 minutes, and our goal is to keep this discussion equally powerful. So without further ado, if may I request each of the panelists today, a very eclectic group of speakers, if you can just take a minute to speak about your work in this sector, and then we could dive down to the discussions. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vishala. I am founder of Millet Bank. It's an 18 months old startup. And before that, I used to work with tourism and hospitality industry. I have 18 years experience. So that is briefly about it. And then we are starting a lot of culture and creative related initiatives within our company itself. One is being the indigenous gifting. So we are currently is doing for G20. So that's it. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Arjun, and I represent Crafts Council of Telangana here. Been associated with it for about 35 years in a voluntary capacity. Before that, I've been through many avatars, including meeting management and working in rural areas.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shiva Devareddy, founder of Go Co-op. Go Co-op is India's first marketplace for weavers and artisans. You can think of us as Amazon for artisans. See, the idea of Go Co-op is to, digitally enable the cluster-based artisans. Basically, these are the indigenous artisans who have been practicing this craft for generations. Bring them online, and at the same time, curate these beautiful products coming in from these clusters and make them available to customers across the world. That's gocoop.com. Thank you.
Hello all, my name is Sridhar Pabisetti. I'm the founding director of Kautilya School of Public Policy. We offer a master's program that's focused entirely on public policy, and shortly we'll be launching a PhD program too. My interest to be here is multifaceted. I love nature. I am a traveler, and I kind of see a lot of parallels from my travel abroad and see how culture has been restored there, and also in a revenue generation point, not just as a preserve, as a do good karma kind of a thing, but as for profitable enterprises, right? So how do I bring that kind of experiences here? I'll share a small introduction. When I went as exchange student to Stockholm School of Economics, the mayor hosted all of us at the Nobel House, where the Nobel Prize is given away, right? So how do you kind of make these simple interventions that international community students who are new to the city are felt welcome? And that was in the back of our mind. And recently we kind of put in a proposal to the Study in India program, where a lot of our foreign students were here. And we sent them a couple of trails in which we would like to take these foreign students to experience nature, culture, and art. And we got a nice, good amount sanctioned. And they said, yeah, please take them around. And now today, after listening to Hare Krishna sir, I'm really excited to bring them and do a deeper engagement that is also revenue generating for the people where we go, right? How can we make sure that people, those who are at the forefront of preserving art, can really monetize some aspects of this, right? So how do you kind of create a win-win for everybody in the ecosystem is something that we work on, and happy to share more.
Good afternoon. My name is Srinivas Rao. I'm the CEO at T-Hub. And, the only thing I want to talk about is obviously I've done a bunch of things, but the one question I think, and I've asked Sanjay this question a few times, but I'll ask him again, you know, and yesterday I was in a meeting with, with the founder of Lovely Sweets, which is a well-known sweets brand in the north. And they have 10 stores and they are, let's say the second tier after the Bikaji, the big, the Haldirams and the Bikaner Walas, so on. So this question has always nagged me for a long time. Why is it that we don't have a global Indian food brand? Right. So we have a few Sarvana Bhavans in a few places. We have a few Haldirams in largely where the Indian diaspora is. But why is it that we haven't been able to build, for example, a McDonald's or a KFC or some other brand like that, right? So I'm hoping that whatever Sanjay and KK are building, are actually is going to lead some impetus to that effort.
Vanessa, thank you. We'll hold you responsible for creating a CE hub soon.
Hi, I'm Krishna Gopal, and for the last 2 decades or so, I've been working with women, helping them set up enterprises. Access Livelihoods, the firm that we have founded, incubates enterprises for the women. And there's a brand that we have created called Creo. Creo represents the interests of women. While we integrate technology investments and also provide supply chain solutions to most of these industries in which women are working, our key focus has been how do we ensure that there are fair terms of engagement for the women so that the women get substantial return from these engagements. The reason why I might have been called in this panel is that we also work with artisans and weavers, and we have a very 3 successful enterprises which are incubated by women artisans functioning. And we have a store in Jubilee Hills, and happy to share some of the insights that we have got in the last 2 decades.
Thank you. Before starting this discussion, I was just reading while walking here. About a decade or so ago, there was this global strategist, Peter Tullens, who actually wrote that the intersection between culture, technology, and entrepreneurship is where most of the emerging ideas in the world are going to happen, right? Theoretically, we all know that. And while some of the numbers that were actually mentioned by the speakers here before, I would like to really reiterate it again. If you look at the 2015 report, so that's less than a decade ago, right? The international trade in the arts and crafts sector alone was worth $35 billion. Okay. And what was India's share in it? Just $1.5 billion. This is considering that 90% of the world's hand-woven crafts come from India. Sanjay mentioned that we are the leading producer of cotton, but we are also the leading producer of jute and silk, right? And I'm again going to refer to the 4 Ps that Sanjay spoke about, right? Preserving, protecting, promoting, and prospering. I think as a country, we have done very well in the past 75 years or so in protecting and preserving this, right? But I think a lot of work now needs to be done in promoting and prospering. Uh, Despite, and some of you are working with the artisans and crafts folks here, but we have not really managed to promote entrepreneurship as in very prosperous economic derived value. We have not invested enough in creating these brands, right? The support that is required in marketing, in creating the product very aspirationally so that consumers of today, not just in this country, but globally, accept it. And I think that's a lot of work, and that is what is most critical in this space of cultural entrepreneurship, right? So with that as the starting point, I want to ask each one of you as practitioners that in your experience, in your work so far, what are these 1, 2, 3 great challenges that you see that is an impediment? We all know what the problem statement is, but you have been in it, you've been working with these craftsmen, the artisans very closely. If I were to ask you, what are those challenges? What would it be? We'll start with Shiva as one of the early entrepreneurs in this space.
Yeah. Thanks, Kanchana. So I think let me take an example of craft as a sector, right? Because obviously culture is much broader, right? You can include food, you have performance arts, you have a lot more, right? Tourism is part of culture. So, but if you look at crafts, um, any idea what is the oldest form of craft or one of the oldest forms of crafts? Any idea? Any guess from the audience?
Art on the rock.
Art on the rock, cave paintings, right? Have, pottery is another one. Has anyone heard of dokra? Right. So dokra is one of the, again, oldest forms of craft, right? How many of you know dokra? We have a cluster for dokra in Telangana. Where is it? Adilabad, right? Yeah, exactly. So, that's how old culture and craft is, right? So it's thousands of years old. And India has India and also Telangana, right, as a state has a huge, abundant, rich history of culture, craft, and unrelated traditions. And these are skills associated, around crafts, right, which have been passed on from generations. Now, just in one state, we have more than 15. Me and MSR were just looking this up. We have more than 15, 16, yeah. The recent one, the red gram, Tandoor red gram, we have 16 GIs in the state of Telangana, right? And just if you look at handloom weaving itself has so many GIs, right? Pochampalli Ikat, we have Telia Rumal GI, we have Gadwal GI, we also have GI for Narayanpet. And each one of them, if you look at it, there are hundreds, if not thousands of, skilled artisans today, even today, though with very limited, huge number of challenges that the artisan community is facing, there's still a good number of artisans still in the state. So there is a lot of skill, a lot of supply potential in a state like Telangana. And at the same time, when you look at demand, there is growing demand for craft. And I really want to emphasize on the word growing, because I just came back from 6 weeks in US, and I was traveling from East Coast to West Coast. We were doing pop-ups, and people were dying to see an authentic Gadwal sari. People were dying to see an authentic Telia Rumal sari. This is in the US. So there is enough and more demand for these products, and not just Indian diaspora. By the way, White House has used cut curtains from Pochampalli, right? I don't know how many of you know this, but Michelle Obama has worn multiple times Ikkat, Pochampalli Ikkat, and also Sambalpuri Ikkat dresses. So there is, not only from a home decor perspective, but from a fashion perspective, there is a huge potential for craft. So you have growing demand, and the numbers are staggering, right? I think what Kanchana just mentioned is a very small subset. If you look at overall craft, the global demand is over $750 billion. And India is hardly, I think, $5 or $6 billion, right? That's the number we have, maybe $5 to $7 billion. Just in carpets, India exports more than $1 billion. So more than 7,500, 8,000 crores of export happens in carpets. And we have one of the biggest cluster for carpets in Warangal. But how much is Warangal exporting today, right? I mean, if we ask these hard questions to ourselves, right, I think there is huge potential in the state. right, that we are sitting on. But I think the problem is in between. There is supply, there is demand, but what is happening in between? That is the big missing middle, right? We don't have enough brands. We don't have enough players who can build the value chain. And if I have to say, we also probably miss a very strong integrated policy for developing handloom clusters in the state. Not only in the state, probably in the country too. And I'm okay to be very clear about it, right? So that's the challenge we are facing. There is a good supply potential, there is good demand, but we need to build the value chain in between. And value chain from my perspective includes the backward linkages, includes capacity development, includes product design and development. And I just had this conversation with Shanta a few weeks ago in a roundtable meeting, but also market linkage, not just market linkage. Again, a lot of people talk about market linkage, but what about all the other things? So that's what needs to be done. Those are the big challenges or big blocks that have to be fixed. And entrepreneurship can play a big role in this, Kanchana, because I mean, the good thing is that the production processes are very sustainable, right? They're eco-friendly. And at the same time, they're sustainable from a people point of view. You can provide good work and better opportunities for someone in Adilabad, not in Hyderabad. That's important, right? If everybody comes to Hyderabad, who will be in Adilabad? So we need to provide local opportunities which are remunerative, good aspirational opportunities, and that is possible through cultural entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship and technology combined, I think, can solve a lot of these missing middle in craft ecosystem.
Thanks, Shiva. And I think with that very significant point that you made of the missing middle, I remember talking to Arjun a couple of weeks ago in a very detailed manner. Arjun, would you like to jump in here and talk about this missing middle, the capacity building that Shiva is actually referring to the last mile?
Yeah, when you talk about capacity building, and I'm here focusing only on the craft sector, because preserving crafts is something, it's a very funny thing because you need to understand what you're going to preserve, because there are some crafts that can be preserved, nurtured, protected, and prospered using Sanjay's words. But there are some which don't, I mean, even if you try, after a point, the person fighting that war will keep doing it. And once that person ends, the war ends, because you're not building the ecosystem around that craft. And when I talk about the ecosystem, I mean that all the people that play a role in the product coming up and the next generation that comes into it. This whole thing needs to be developed, and it can't happen in some. Now, for the ones that it can happen, what I see the challenge now is craftsmen per se need to be trained in timeline management, design intervention, and working capital management. These are the three weakest points. The craft is with them, the skill is with them, the technology is with them. But how many of you are going to keep a Kondapalli elephant in your house? Your grandmother had it, possibly your mother had it, but none of you want it because you all come to smaller homes, contemporary homes. You want Zen living, you might have one thing. So we'll have to think of a way where we get the craftsmen to interwork with their craft so that you bring something which speaks about two different things and it finds a place in a contemporary home. Now, the same thing, the craftsman doesn't know. He thinks that if he needs 10,000 or 20,000 rupees to make 1 month of produce, he only wants that, but he doesn't realize that 20,000 doesn't come back to him for at least 3 months. And at a point, some point doesn't even come back in 3 months' time because of unsold goods. So this is where capacity building and awareness needs to be created, in my opinion.
Thank you. Krishna Gopal, I think this is the right spot where, where you've built the capacity and helped people improve their skill sets, although in a different sector like agro. And I was reading some of your case studies, how some of those women are now running farmer producer companies. So that entrepreneurial acumen, how how have you integrated that while you're working with the artisan community? Or what is the same kind of model, or what are the tweaks that you think need to be done to kind of make a difference in this space?
There, what we've realized is, especially with our work with women weavers, what we have realized is that most women are dropouts from schools, right? And you therefore, while we want managerial and entrepreneurial education to be offered to them, there are certain barriers, both in terms of ability to comprehend the knowledge or this one. But there are also native wisdom within the artisans. So how do you actually nurture this native wisdom and add on to it the entrepreneurial skills? So that was the key challenge. So what we figured out is that it can't be through classrooms and the kind of trainings that we offer traditionally in schools and colleges for educated people. What we figured out is that it has to be through action. So you have to do business and commerce with the women over a period of 2 years, 3 years. And during the process, they will pick up balance sheets, accounts, finances as good as anybody. So we have businesses where a woman who is not even 8th standard pass out maintains the entire financial statements, prepares the annual reports, offer these particulars. So it takes some time, but they will understand all of these and run it. And with technology as a support, there's a lot possible because we've created a learning management system where you can actually deliver all these programs in vernacular language. And a lot of it is through activities that you do. So I think the key, therefore, here is that most of our artisans and people who are involved in the culture industry are going to be school dropouts because they've pursued excellence in art and culture, not just as the academic qualifications like science and maths, or this is not what they've pursued. They pursued art and excellence in that. So, if we have to, therefore, uh, imbibe entrepreneurial spirit into them and give them the opportunity that is existing in the world, the numbers which you are talking about. I think the way is we have to do it in more action-oriented way, in an entrepreneurial way, by working. And our producer companies are that. Basically, you start your business right from the day one. You don't wait for time to come. You do the business right from the day one, ensure that they are profitable so that you can sustain. It earns good for yourself. It gives returns to the investors and it takes care of the market consumer needs. So this is the key that has to be worked out. How do we work out is the key challenge.
Thanks. I think, Vishala, this is where we would love to shift the focus to actually get your experience when you started this, what, a decade or so ago, in the field of millets, something that we've all grown up eating. But what you were just telling me before this discussion about the branding, packaging, and how you kind of brought this mainstream, it would be good if you can share those experiences.
It was actually a very interesting journey. And just before Millet Bank, I wanted to work for culture and creative industries. I have done a lot of research, and it was actually unbelievable that CCI as an industry is the second biggest livelihood after agriculture. And in our culture also, there is the 68 art forms that, they are like people were excelled in. And there was a lot of the stories that we heard. And it didn't happen because there was no awareness among the investors and the ecosystem players also about the CCI industry. When I go and say that I want to be in placemaking, they're saying, are you an architect? Are you an interior person? They didn't know that how we are into place activation, like, developing annual calendars. So I failed there actually. So during lockdown, I reached my village with 10,000 rupees. Just I had petrol cost for my car. And my brother told me, like, 15 years back, you went to Hyderabad with 10,000. You are back now. So you stay in the village only. So that thought really scared me. Like I said, look, oh my God, I have not done anything sustainable, in this, whatever I was doing. I was maybe too over imaginative, too over this thing. And I said, okay, let me be here and do something in my own village. So there was this agricultural shed, which was unused for the last 15 years. And then I called my niece, she was also in the village. And then we started cleaning the agricultural shed, and we converted as a museum, and we went and picked this, old pots and all that. Why I have done that was in the olden days when my mother used to cook, she used to have these huge giant size earthen pots in which she used to store millets and pulses and all this. So there were 30 varieties of grains in our own home. But when I went to home and I asked my mother-in-law, what's for dinner? It's chapati, which is not even our culture. So I thought, okay, let me bring some kind of, the culture revival, food revival in our own family, and then we try to pass on to the world. So we set up a museum, and every day I was starting posting something about that, the pots and the grains, and a lot of social media awareness was there, and people started calling me. People who looked down me, like, for the last 10 years, she is not worth and she's not fitting for entrepreneurship. I had 50 inquiries for investment. And I thought, okay, this is very powerful. So this is where, we have to move as a country, and our roots, identifying our roots. Who can tell a better story than ourselves, who actually experienced? And I spoke in Dubai investment platform, I spoke in UN conferences, and this story of my mother saving this 30 grains and my sister-in-law is saving 2 grains, this is the story which was sold. So identifying the roots and the power, that is what the key for culture and creative entrepreneurship, and the way you have to express that. So that is what I identified. And then today, this is a story that we were identified as one of the top brands in India. Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that story. I think, MSR, this is a perfect time to, all the challenges and the issues and the market that we've spoken enough today since 3 p.m. So one thing has been established, that unless the whole ecosystem rallies together, this is not something that 50 people in this room are going to achieve. As somebody who's leading probably one of the biggest incubating ecosystem in the country, although very specific to technology, there seems to lie a huge opportunity to develop this sector. What do you think as an ecosystem one could bring or even start actioning out? Because we're completely mindful that this IT boom, it's not something that we woke up and suddenly there is a T hub, right? It's gotten 2 decades of work. So if you were to start today and this huge opportunity that lies, what would your thought be to create something like this in Telangana?
Um, so first of all, I'm going to try and extrapolate what I've learned about entrepreneurial ecosystems, particularly in the last 3.5 years, um, to what I think can be done from a culture standpoint. So I think when you think about an entrepreneurial ecosystem, first is obviously you need entrepreneurs, right? And I think the point which KG spoke about, right? Creating, so they're not by nature, designed to be thinking entrepreneurially. Many of them may be more what you might call almost lifestyle entrepreneurs, if you will, right? Or disguised entrepreneurs, right? Self-employed entrepreneurs, for want of a better word, right? So I think something needs to be done to solve for that. And I think one of the things which I keep thinking a lot of these people can benefit from is around, I think digital literacy, I think is going to be a really important aspect, because today, geography is literally history, right? In a manner of speaking, that if you're building something of value, potentially, the world is your oyster, if you will, right? So I think the first is around the entrepreneurs. The second is, I think, large businesses have a responsibility to pay it forward. They have to support. So the likes of, let's say, a Jaipur Rugs or a Fab India or somebody like that, or even the KVIC, for example, how can they actively engage and support these startups? I don't have data on how much of their CSR spend actually goes back into supporting these entrepreneurs, right? The third, I think, is specifically, for example, some of our larger industry bodies. Okay? So I'm talking of people like CII, for example, FICCI, ASSOCHAM, etc. Again, I don't know how involved they are. They have so many different wings. So, for example, CII is setting up a wing here in this building on the 6th floor, which hopefully should be ready in about a month's time, to support startups, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Specific wing. I haven't seen them make any announcement of what they're going to support crafts and craft and the creative pursuits sort of thing. So I think that's the third angle to look at. The fourth, I think, is again from a funding standpoint, right? And I think it's good to see now that some steps are being taken in that direction. So some of you will be aware that this whole social exchange, there's a social stock exchange is going to come in soon. We're also starting to see the first signs of social funds. So, for example, in Hyderabad, there is a fund called Sobus, social business, which is being set up by two local entrepreneurs here. So we're starting to see the first signs of capital because, unfortunately, even today, to a large extent, bank funding is collateral based, which is very hard for most of these entrepreneurs, to support. And many of these business may not necessarily be VC funded because VCs don't understand profit with purpose. Sanjay is a VC before, but sorry, but this whole concept of profit with purpose is something which I think is generally anathema to most VCs. But I think we are starting to see the first signs of headway. So I think we have to bring all of these entities together. Right? And I think also obviously from the government standpoint. So for example, this year being the International Year of Millets, obviously, hopefully that will create more awareness about the benefits of using millets. And specifically, I want to just make take one example of how we are supporting specifically at T-Hub. So we have funded a millet-based startup. It's a startup called Millet Bowl. We've invested 25 lakhs in them, and they are in the business of building protein shakes from millet. Right. So we've helped them through the process. Apart from the funding, obviously helping them with market connects, helping them set up distribution networks, and all of that. So I think while obviously our focus is a lot more tech, right, but happy to support. And I think if we can bring all these pieces together, right? And I think the other, I was just telling Shiva here that one of the things, many of these conversations, right, they tend to remain conversations and don't convert into action points. So my request to you, KK, and to Sanjay is let's focus on trying to not boiling the ocean and trying to do hundreds of things, but at least doing 2 or 3 things, right? And today, I think particularly at T-Hub, we have access to VCs. We also have access now. We've built a fairly strong connect with the local entrepreneur community. So if there's a need for some of these to get into, for example, into some retail, parts of it, there's something which we can definitely help with.
MSR, I'm going to hold you on to it. I'm going to digress a little bit here today because you actually brought this very important point of funding and how that has to rally around the ecosystem. We have Vinayak here from Earth Ventures, who's actually creating the first fund in the country to support creative enterprises. Vinayak, if I can request you to just come on stage for a minute and talk about what your fund entails. Look, there's a lot of folks here interested in knowing about it.
Yeah, thanks. Just recovering from a flu, so pardon my voice here. So yeah, VCs don't understand. VCs don't understand creative cultural, and it is one of the things I've always put back to entrepreneurs. It's not the job of VCs to understand you. It's your job to help them understand. Yeah. But having said that, we are setting up the first venture fund, which is not a social impact fund, right? It is returns, but with purpose. Yeah. So it will have all the rigors of a venture process. It will not be philanthropy. It will not be an impact first and then returns fund, right? So right off the bat. So to create our proof of concept, we've invested the equivalent of $5 million of our own money before trying to raise. And we've done that with 6 startups who are in the US because, that's where the large market is. Yeah. One of them is an Indian founded, one of them is a white American founded enterprise, 2 in the US, and 4 of them are in India. And all of them are either, in some form and fashion associated with, crafts, apparel, or they're enablers, of this sector. So 2 of them are tech companies. One is a B2B platform, one is a SaaS platform. So they're really, these are companies which are either in the process of, which are building brands in this sector and building global brands, or they're enabling, brands to operate. And we are extrapolating what we did and our learnings of the last 18 months or so, having invested $5 million of our own into creating a larger fund which we can do this at scale. So that's what Hearth Ventures is about.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinay. It's almost half hour, but Sridhar, it was not meant to not hear you, but I think the most important question going forward, as has been echoed several times today, is how are we going to take this conversation forward, right? What are those action points? As in, we've got several, all different kinds of ecosystem stakeholders present in this room today. If we have to collaborate, right, and take forward this agenda of building a very conducive cultural entrepreneurship ecosystem in Telangana. And one of the things that Jayesh ji also, excuse me, mentioned was even at a very government policy level, right? What is it that we need to do? You coming from a very public policy background, if you were on the advisory board, what would be a couple of inputs that you would put high on the agenda for this group to take forward?
I think there were a couple of very good starting points. One was about digital literacy and also about teaching entrepreneurial mindset, right? We should also kind of spend a little bit of time on the anthropological nature of how each of the ecosystem player thinks, right? For example, the first stint I had with the tribals were with the Jaina Kurubas of Heggade Devanakote in remote Karnataka, right? I kind of spent time with a lot of people there, and I asked them, tell me how different they are. And one thing that they said is that, you know what, the lady of the house cooks meal at some point of time in the day. Each lady cooks at different points of the time because based on her own daily routine. And then she comes out, she looks around and she says, if there are 6 kids over there, not necessarily all her own, she'd grab all of them and then she would feed them. Right? I mean, that's their mindset. And this whole entrepreneurial mindset of a just returns and my company, my firm boundary is very alien to them. And they are our important stakeholder, if you want, if they are the person who are creating the art and we are kind of somebody else is marketing it. How does this whole ecosystem hold hands with each other and not just run away and then de-commoditize the contribution that's been done by that tribal woman? Right. So tech can enable us today, kind of saying that, yes, where is that piece that was created? How much value add, who's doing, and what is a fair return to give? I think that's something that VCs like Vinayak should insist on, saying that where is the fair value contribution to different players in the ecosystem? Who's adding value and who's just monetizing it? Right. Otherwise, we'll end up getting the risk of Spotify like platforms where the real art creators don't get any money out of it, right? So how do we kind of become that, put purpose into our own models? Right? So understanding different mindsets will help us train our curriculum better, take all of us together. Because for us, we've discovered a wonderful document called Epigraphica Karnataka, which is about the inscription stones in Karnataka, done by a guy called B.L. Rice. He did this 100 years ago. And today there are like crazy tech guys who are going out and saying, oh, you know what? I think I saw this inscription in that remote village there. Let me go and dig it out, right? So technology enables unrelated people to come together and work, right? Now this group that is kind of curating is so responsible on saying that, we need to preserve it for the future. And some monetization opportunities will come, and whoever is monetizing should own a responsibility to pay back to these people who are curating it. To some form of furthering what B.L. Rice did like mad person documenting these inscription stones across Karnataka and beyond, right? So how do we be respectful of people who have preserved for all these years and not the promoters who kind of end up monetizing this whole thing, right? I think that's a very important, respectful beginning that we can make so that the art makers continue to create more art, right? And be alive, thrive. And whenever somebody's buying $100 thing, right, it trickles down here, right? That 1% share or 1.5% share in India doesn't mean that that's the actual value. It has become so commoditized that you can't move up the value chain. But if you decommoditize and if you say that this is coming from Adilabad, how about coming there the next time you are going to a trip to Hyderabad? Right? How do you handhold that experience? And today, whether we like it or not, the millennials are not really into buying things, right? They don't buy a car, they book a Uber. But you tell them that, hey, here is the experience of kind of creating your own coffee cup with the pottery techniques that existed 100 years ago, and they'll all go crazy and they'll invest in that, right? So how do you kind of make sure that you are respectful of people who have done the first 3 Ps and not just get lost in the fourth? Right? And I think I'll not hold everyone back.
Thank you. Thank you. The same question to each one of you, if it were be a rapid fire round. Shiva, what would 2 things that you would actually provide as inputs that the state should probably take forward immediately?
Yeah, I think I must have said this even before, but each cluster has a huge potential, right? I think it's possible to build with all the, giving respect to the people who have carried forward the tradition, who are preserving the tradition. I think the state is sitting on a gold mine of sorts in terms of culture. So each cluster has potential to create 100 crore kind of a, enterprise it doesn't have to be in a single enterprise. It could be multiple enterprises. It could be collectively owned. There are different forms possible. So that kind of an integrated, focused approach to even like 4 or 5 clusters to build them out and do something, as MSR said, really concrete on the ground, I think would be my key suggestion.
Thank you. Arjun?
I think what Shiva said, that we'll have to start working within clusters and start training them. And I mean, it's a small thing that came to my mind earlier when I finished talking was, we can onboard them onto all the e-marketplaces, but they really don't know even how to take a photograph, Simple thing like teaching them techniques, how to photograph their product so that they attract.
Branding.
So these are small things. So where we can go from Crafts Council, we can start doing programs on these levels in different clusters identified. So each of us works in a different thing, but these are small things, but have a bigger impact later on once they're exposed.
I think in addition to the integrated cluster approach, we need an integrated infrastructure. For example, I'm talking about Asifabad. Now the district has been divided. Asifabad is where the Dokra craft is. And we went on a holiday. I took all my family on Diwali day just to meet the artist and all. In the village, when you enter, there was a board saying that if you want to enter the village, please ask elderly people for permission. So as a destination marketers and tourism experience people, that's a very negative approach. So it's not very welcoming. So imagine if there would have been a community center, or there would have been a very nice store. We could have walked in and then asked these people. So this kind of integrated infrastructure, like a community approach, a community center, not just the infrastructure. Infrastructure is everywhere. Government is building community centers everywhere, but the management of the community infrastructure is needed. So therefore, I see there is a huge opportunity of community managers. Earlier, there were a marketing manager, there was an event manager. Now this marketing manager and event manager is coming together and becoming a community manager. What you see, Pranay is a community manager. He's skilled. Social media, interacting with people, inviting guests, and creating this kind of annual calendars. If this approach Asifabad would have taken care by having a design center for these 450 families, train their youngsters in managing visitors and selling them and explaining and storytelling and having a retail store, it would have done wonders for the Dokra community. I'm telling you, they are in acute poverty. I have not seen any artist community in so much of poorest of the poor condition that the Dokra people. I'm telling you, the truth. So this kind of the design infrastructure and the management has to be taken. That is the only approach it has to be done if it does wonders. So that's.
Thank you. MSR, what are those two things so that we are not boiling the ocean?
I think two things, right? I think from a capacity building standpoint, I think one point he made about financial literacy, and the second is digital literacy. These are the two things which, I mean, we can talk about funding and all those aspects, but if we can focus on these two, which are relatively easier to do and don't require massive outlays of capital, I think these are the two things which can make a difference.
Thanks. KGV, any parting thoughts? I know we could probably speak about this for the next 4 hours. but
Yeah.
go ahead.
So I think this is an industry, as Sanjay is piloting this and helping the state to come up with this new model. We can't end up like agriculture ministry, right? They took 50 years to realize that agriculture can become self-sufficient and the farmer is in stress, right? We can't be like that. So they changed the name to Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare very recently, just a decade back. So they realized it after so long. So we can't be like that. So the human phase of any sectoral growth has to be taken care. And if we don't take care, we are not going to do justice to art and the culture itself. The second thing is, culture industry is about excellence in that particular thing. You have to keep on innovating regularly. It's not that you're mass producing things. You're not mass producing things. You have to keep on innovating. And innovation requires a lot of investments into knowledge, technology, and research, and all of these things. There is no funds for that. That fund has to be patient. It is not just VC funds. It has to be patient. It has to be looking at subdued returns. And this blended finance approach is the key for culture industry to grow. And I think Telangana state should realize, like social stock exchanges, like the blended finance, we have to combine capital, philanthropic capital with the commercial capital. Both are required and they have a very crucial role to play in this entire growth of this particular thing. So I think these two things, and state investment fund definitely has to be there to support the entire process. Otherwise, it's not going to, it's just not the impact, because we've seen impact investment also. There's a lot of impact washing that happens and nothing really grows at the ground, right?
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad you stopped on that note of innovation, which is very critical, right? And it's a terminology which we often use very loosely, but I think nevertheless very important for all of us to imbibe in our work. With that, thank you. Sorry, Dr. Shanta, we went a little overboard. Thank you so much to all of you. And I'm sure the audience has a lot more questions. Some of them actually asked me if they could post questions. The speakers will be available post this for networking. So please feel free to reach out. And once again, to emphasize, this is just a starting point to take, not just talk here and then exchange business cards and say nice to meet you, but how can each one of you actually come onto the main stage, tell us, we are a network. So it's a network of Indian cultural enterprises. We exist because you all exist. If there were no entrepreneurs, no enterprises, honestly, Sanjay and I have no work to do. uh, we are here to kind of see whatever backbone ecosystem support we can bring to the table. And this is just the first showcasing of it. So, we'll be happy to share our contact details, reach out to us. And in the coming months, we have a few initiatives designed that will be working very closely with TSIC. We'll ensure that we reach out to each one of you here, and we look forward to your active participation, guidance, and mentorship from our panelists here. And together, MSR will help us create the CE hub of Telangana. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd request the speakers to stay on the dais. Now I'd call Sanjay Anandram to give away the token of appreciation to all the speakers. Yeah, please. Thank you. Thank you so much for everybody for their perspectives from various backgrounds. So just to build on what Kanchana had all left us with a thought of this being a very first step to creating that network of cultural startups, it also takes me back to how the robust incubation ecosystem actually took place in Telangana. It was during 2017 when just the idea of forming a WhatsApp group of all the existing incubators in Telangana, and how do we start with that small step. And eventually today we are here with more than 60 startups in the state. And every month an incubator takes the responsibility of being a host and inviting all the incubators to share the best practices. And that's how the incubation ecosystem has been thriving for the last 5 years in Telangana. Maybe there's so many practices that are existing within and other states also we try to incorporate. And today again is the first step. And now with that, I'd like to call on the stage once again Dr. Shanta and Sanjay to re-emphasize on what do we have in store to take forward this day and create an inclusive cultural entrepreneurship network.
Thank you, Pranay. So as I said, we'll definitely build this community of, the personas already, I mentioned. It could be, an influencer, a creative mind, or it could be a government entity, a private entity, whoever is working in this culture and creative space, for sure, will create that network. And continuously, we'll try to see if we can, meet on a monthly or a quarterly basis, for sure. This is just the beginning, right? And as Hari Krishna sir said, like, from home to tomb, like everything has a cultural aspect. So we'll define what are the subsectors we have to look into, and who are the players and how would we bring them on board. And for sure, there will be an advisory committee to put together the annual calendar for, for what are the things we could do to build this cultural and creative ecosystem. And what else you wanted to? Policies, frameworks, for sure. Government of Telangana, wherever we kind of, wanted to build an ecosystem, we'll definitely look into that aspect of policy and framework. And Sridhar from Kautilya can definitely help us with that aspect too. So, but we'll keep in touch with you guys, and please do network over high tea. And any inputs that you guys have for us, feel free to reach out to us. This is just the beginning, and we are all ears and eyes open to see like how we can take this ecosystem, build this ecosystem from scratch up. And we have done phenomenally well in the other sectors. So we have that confidence that we'll do great job in this sector too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Dr. Shanta, for the announcements. And we look forward to all your active participation to take this conversation forward, particularly on all the dimensions that were discussed earlier today. Right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shanta and Sanjay. So again, we have all of your contacts, and what we'd request as a next step is while we create this group, we'll also encourage all of you to share this among with your fellow entrepreneurs and fellow startups, and as big as possible to make this network so that the scale of our impact also would be large. So that's one request from us. And followed from now, we have a networking with amongst the stakeholders that are present over here. So there's a high tea that's organized towards my hand direction. Our colleagues and all of us will guide you from this way towards the high tea where you can network. Thank you so much once again for coming down.